All right, it is time to color your typography designs. You guys might remember this from Module 4, Value and Color, when we talked about pressure using your colored pencils, blending, burnishing, layering. These things are what we're going to be using with this project. So there's 3 levels of difficulty that you can choose from. With the first level of difficulty, you're going to be just coloring solid colors. You're not going to be doing any sort of value. You're just coloring with your colored pencil, and that's it. Bada boom, done. With the medium level, you are going to start to get into some value. So you can see when you look at just a section here, when you look at just this orange section, has a little bit of green. I'm going from dark to light with my colored pencil. So that's called value when we're showing a gradation. This creates a nice kind of play with light and dark. The hardest method, the most challenging one, which of course happens to be my favorite, is when you actually blend from one color to another. So when the letter or the character is broken up, you can actually see that 2 colors are blending together in those sections. It just makes for like a really interesting picture. As far as the coloring goes, each letter, the different sections within the letter need to be colored differently from one another so that they're not touching. So for instance, I could make this red, this section of the letter red, but I can't make this section of the letter red because they're touching. But I could go and make this section of the letter red, but again, I can't make this section. Diagonal is okay, but if you want to make it even, crazier, just make every section of the letter a different color, or just make sure to not have the colors touching each other. Even in my easy example, I know it looks similar, but I did like a red-orange, then red-orange, then orange. The orange and the orange aren't touching each other. They're just diagonal from each other. That's okay. In this one, I used 3 colors, so it's not necessarily like a diagonal matches up with the diagonal, but you have the yellow, the green, the yellow-green, and no section ever touches the other section. So it's just making sure to keep your colors separate within the sections of the letter. So let's move on to the easiest one. I'm going to do that in the B right here. And you're going to want to choose colors. It doesn't matter. We're not having you choose a color scheme this time. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We are just having you guys choose colors really that you like, honestly. Make sure you have your pencil sharpener handy and some type of paper towel or something to grab those shavings so they don't just go on the table. I also recommend putting a piece of paper underneath your drawing paper. I just think it makes for a nicer looking design. It gives the colored pencil a little bit of padding when you're working on it. So again, for the easiest level, you're just coloring a solid color. So I'm going to focus on this square. Something that might actually help you guys if you kind of are struggling at breaking up the space is you can take paper towels or you can take scrap paper and you can kind of block off everything else. Ignore the noise. Now, in this square right here, you can see a little bit of the B and you can actually see a little bit of the A. I wouldn't want the A and the B to be colored the same because you want the colors not only in the letter to be diversified, you want the 2 characters to have different sets of colors. So like even though technically I could have used yellow here, I didn't because I didn't want it to be too close to the yellow over here. Or the bright blue, I used like a darker blue. So make sure your colors in the letters aren't too close to one another. You want the A to have its own thing going on. So right now I'm going to focus on the B. And for the easiest one, again, it is just coloring. So I'm going to use good coloring technique and I'm going to go around the edges first. It's really important that you guys go around the edges for this project. Number 1, we're grading you on craftsmanship, and this is a really great way to have good craftsmanship. And I'm going to press pretty hard because since I'm doing the easy method, I think that it looks way nicer if your colored pencil is bolder. Okay, so now it would be okay if I did this blue because they're not touching except for a little bitty baby corner. But I'm not actually. I'm gonna stick with blues. This is light blue. And again, if it helps you kind of block everything else off, Always go around your edges first. You guys probably are gonna have to sharpen pencils a lot this week. Be really careful where these two colors are matching an edge. Now, if you're having trouble seeing the letter, something you can do is you can outline the letter in Sharpie, in your thin Sharpie. I'm not doing it for this example, but you totally can. You can even use a thick Sharpie to show overlapping. That we're gonna leave that up to you guys. You don't have to outline the letters though. You can just leave them in pencil and go over a color pencil. You can also outline after you've done the coloring too. I'm going to switch to a purple. I have a little peek of the right there. And ta-da! I've done one letter. And again, this is the simple motion, or the simple one. Let's move on to the A, or at least part of the A, and I'm gonna show you guys the medium version, which is when you're using value. So you're putting really hard pressure and then you're moving to light pressure as you approach the edge of your letter. I'm gonna go really, really hard at the top of this triangle of the A. And then as I work my way down, I'm just lightening the pressure. I apologize for my Smurf hands. I spilled food coloring everywhere. It happens. Okay, so then when I move to another section, let's use a red. I could either go like light to dark, or I could go dark to light. The direction that you go is totally up to you. So let's change things up and go dark to light over here. Again, if you're having trouble focusing on the sections, you can cover things up so you're only focusing on one square at a time. One little baby section at a time. So like right here, it would be totally okay to use pink, so I'm going to. But I'm just making sure in every section that I do that I'm going from dark to light in some sort of fashion. I'm gonna do this big section next. Now be careful, you're only coloring in the letter, you're not coloring in the background. The only thing that gets color for this project are the letters. Okay, so you guys can see that when we just did the easy, it does go a little bit faster. I think it doesn't have as much wow effect though. You can already see in the medium how much more interesting it is. It's sort of a creative risk. And since you are getting graded based off of your difficulty level, choosing the right difficulty level for you, and creativity and originality, all those things, maybe it'd be a good idea to bump it up for this. Just a suggestion. All right, on the G up here, I'm going to show you how to do the most challenging one, which is blending the colors. This one takes a little bit more thought because your letters could end up having a ton of different colors in it. I tried to stick with 4 on most of my letters, but as you can see, my 8, I just ended up using the whole rainbow. So what you want to do is, just like when you blended on this paper, you want to make sure that you're choosing 2 colors that can actually be blended. I recommend just sticking with 2 since the squares are 1.5 by 1.5. You don't want to be like doing too much. So I'm going to choose just blue, light blue into another blue, or what blue is this? Sky blue. And I'm going to do it in this big section here. So near the edge of my letter section, I should say, I'm going to start really dark with the blue. And I'm going to go about halfway with sort of medium pressure. And make sure that it looks blended with what I'm doing. And then I'm going to go light about 3/4 of the way. And then just because it helps me, I'm going to flip this around. And I'm going to do blue, the darker blue, really, really hard, making sure to stay within my square. So right now I'm burnishing out. That's how hard I'm pressing on my colored pencil. And again, I'm moving to medium pressure and then to light pressure to create that nice blend, that nice gradation between 2 colors. Now, this is the most challenging coloring because you're using 2 colors, you're doing value. So it's challenging, but man, can I just tell you what the payoff is of how cool this looks? All right, let's do another one, a crazier one. Let's do some yellow and some orange to get some complementary action in here. Mrs. Cantrell's favorite color scheme is complementary, and she likes blue and orange. So just like the blue section, I'm gonna start really, really hard. And then because yellow is such a, I call it a weak color because when you blend, it's easily taken over. I'm gonna be very, very, very light-handed with my orange. Again, making sure not to cross that barrier right there. And this is also why it's so important that you guys draw light. As you can see, my color pencil is showing through there. And I'm going to pull this yellow down to the orange section. Getting some macaroni and cheese color here. I'm going to go back with my orange barely to get a nice blend. All right, and I would continue working with that. So this, I'm not going to show you guys the whole thing because a lot of you have been saying, why do you show us the whole thing? So you guys can treat your letters in whatever way you deem necessary. Again, just as a review, the easiest is to just color them solidly. Remember, we're just focusing on the letters, numbers, and characters, but you have to make sure that the colors are different in the different sections of the letter. If it's easier for you to understand, make every single section a different color. If it's too confusing. If you get confused too, please ask me or Mrs. Cantrell when we can help you in any way possible. So again, that's the easy, you're just solid coloring. With the medium, you are doing value shading. So you're still coloring every section of the letter or the character or the number a different color, but you're shading from dark to light. You're doing that pressure from all the way hard to all the way light. The A that I've demonstrated here is what that looks like. It looks like light is shining on it. That's what that value does. The hardest level is the two color blending. So when you're blending from two colors that are similar, just blending from one side to the other side within the section of the letter. And that is what this G, part of the G, represents here. All right, choose your level. Have fun, guys.